Angel Peterson had always lived a life of comfort and ease. From a young age, she was surrounded by wealth and privilege, her every desire catered to by her parents and their staff. Her world was one of luxury, where struggles were foreign concepts. Angel's beauty was undeniable, and she carried herself with the grace and confidence that came with being raised in such an affluent environment. However, her privileged upbringing had also led to an air of arrogance. She viewed herself as above those around her, especially those who worked for her family. In university, Angel's lack of interest in academics was clear. She barely paid attention in class, only showing up to fulfill attendance requirements. Instead of focusing on her studies, she spent her time attending lavish parties, indulging in the social scene, and mingling with others of her status. Her grades were suffering, a reflection of her disinterest in education. Every semester, her professors voiced their concerns, but Angel remained unfazed. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, were worried about her future. They had always hoped that she would one day take her studies seriously, but each passing semester only brought more disappointment. Mr. Peterson, determined to bring some semblance of discipline into Angel's life, hired a new driver named Jerry. Unlike the other chauffeurs they had employed, Jerry was different. He was reserved, always speaking politely and carrying out his duties with precision. Jerry never intruded into the family's personal matters, preferring to stay in the background. But there was more to Jerry than met the eye. Beneath his quiet demeanor was a story of perseverance and determination. Jerry had graduated with first-class honors in mathematics, a subject he had excelled in throughout his academic journey. However, finding a job in his field had proven to be a challenge. The job market was tough, and despite his qualifications, Jerry found himself struggling to secure employment. He couldn't afford to wait any longer, with bills piling up and responsibilities to handle. So, when the opportunity to work as a driver for the Peterson family arose, he took it without hesitation. Though the job wasn't what he had envisioned for himself, Jerry approached it with professionalism. He saw it as a temporary solution until something better came along. To Angel, Jerry was just another member of the household staff. She barely acknowledged his presence, seeing him only as someone whose job was to drive her around. Her interactions with him were limited to barking orders, telling him where to take her, and expecting him to be at her beck and call. She never bothered to learn his name or ask about his life. Jerry, on the other hand, remained unfazed by her dismissive attitude. He had encountered people like Angel before, those who believed their wealth made them superior. He knew better than to let her arrogance affect him. Jerry maintained his professionalism, doing his job efficiently and without complaint. While Angel ignored him, he paid close attention to her routine, ensuring that he was always on time to drive her to her various destinations. He stayed in the background, observing quietly as Angel lived her life of excess. Despite her attitude, Jerry couldn't help but notice how lost she seemed, drifting through life without a clear sense of purpose. But he kept these thoughts to himself, focusing on his job and remaining invisible in Angel's world. One afternoon, after a frustrating day at university, Angel instructed Jerry to pick up her friend Mira from campus. The two girls sat in the back seat of the luxurious car, their conversation filled with complaints about their latest calculus assignment. Angel was particularly exasperated, her voice laced with frustration as she vented to Mira about how impossible the assignment seemed. Mira shared in her friend's despair, both of them expressing their disbelief at how complex the equations were. Jerry, though focused on the road, couldn't help but overhear their conversation. He listened quietly as the two girls lamented their struggles, their voices filled with uncertainty. When they finally arrived at the Peterson mansion, Jerry parked the car and hesitated for a moment. He knew it wasn't his place to speak up, but the mathematician in him couldn't resist offering help. Gathering his courage, Jerry turned around and spoke to Angel. "Excuse me, Miss Angel," he said politely. "I overheard your conversation about the assignment. I have a degree in mathematics. If you'd like, I can help you with it." Angel and Mira exchanged incredulous looks, unable to believe that their driver was offering to assist with calculus. Angel couldn't hide her skepticism. She looked at Jerry as though he had just told her an impossible joke. "You, a driver, you expect me to believe that you know anything about calculus?" Her voice was dripping with disbelief. Mira stifled a laugh beside her, clearly amused by the idea. But Jerry remained calm, unfazed by their reaction. He had encountered this kind of doubt before. "I understand if you don't believe me," Jerry replied, his tone measured and respectful. "But I graduated top of my class in mathematics. I know it's hard to imagine, given my current job, but I do have the qualifications to help you. If you're willing to give me a chance, I can explain the assignment to you." Angel hesitated. Her initial reaction was to dismiss him, but something about the way Jerry spoke made her pause. There was a quiet confidence in his voice, a certainty that made her curious. Reluctantly, she decided to give him a chance. "Fine," she said, handing him the assignment. "Let's see what you can do." They moved to the living room, where Jerry sat with the assignment in hand. With surprising ease, he began to break down the complex equations, explaining them in a way that made sense to both Angel and Mira. As Jerry explained the calculus concepts, Angel found herself genuinely listening for the first time in ages. The math, which had seemed like an insurmountable wall, started to make sense as Jerry walked her and Mira through each step. His voice was calm and steady, his explanations clear and concise. Angel couldn't help but be impressed. She had never thought of Jerry as anything more than a driver, but here he was, solving problems that had baffled her for days. The session lasted for about an hour, and by the end, their assignment was complete. Angel stared at the paper in disbelief. She had never understood calculus so well before. "Thank you," she muttered, still trying to process what had just happened. Jerry simply nodded and returned to his duties, leaving Angel and Mira in the living room. Over the next few days, Angel couldn't stop thinking about the study session. When the results for the assignment were finally released, she was shocked. She had scored higher than she ever had in that class. For the first time, she hadn't just passed, she had excelled. It was a new feeling, one that made her question her previous attitude toward her studies and toward Jerry. Intrigued by the improvement in her grades, Angel started seeking Jerry's help more frequently. At first, it was just with her math assignments, but soon she began asking him for help in other subjects as well. Each time, Jerry patiently sat with her, explaining concepts and walking her through difficult topics. He never made her feel inferior for not knowing the material and always found ways to make the lessons engaging. Gradually, Angel's attitude toward her studies began to change. She started to prioritize her academics over parties and social events. Her grades improved, and her professors noticed the change in her performance. They were impressed by her newfound dedication, though they couldn't quite understand what had sparked it. Angel's transformation wasn't lost on her parents either. Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, who had been so worried about their daughter's future, were relieved to see her taking her education seriously. They had never seen Angel so focused and determined before. They didn't know the full story yet, but they could sense that something, or someone, had inspired her. Slowly, Angel's arrogance started to fade as well. She began to appreciate the people around her, especially Jerry, who had been instrumental in her journey. Mr. Peterson, ever observant, quickly realized that Jerry was the catalyst behind Angel's academic transformation. Though Jerry had never asked for anything in return for his help, Mr. Peterson felt compelled to reward him for his efforts. He doubled Jerry's salary, acknowledging the significant role he had played in Angel's improvement. Jerry was grateful but humble, accepting the raise without much fuss. He didn't see his assistance as anything extraordinary. To him, it was simply a matter of helping someone in need, using the skills he had spent years honing. However, what neither Mr. Peterson nor Jerry could anticipate was the growing connection between Jerry and Angel. As they spent more time together, their conversations moved beyond just academics. They began talking about life, dreams, and ambitions. Angel learned more about Jerry's background, how he had struggled to find a job in his field despite being a top graduate, and how he had taken the driver position to make ends meet. She admired his resilience and humility, qualities she had never paid attention to before. Slowly, her feelings toward him started to shift. Jerry was no longer just her driver, he was someone she respected and cared about. Angel couldn't pinpoint the exact moment when her feelings for Jerry changed, but the shift was undeniable. She found herself looking forward to their study sessions, not just because of the academic help, but because she genuinely enjoyed Jerry's company. He was different from the people she usually associated with, those who were drawn to her wealth and status. Jerry didn't care about any of that. He treated her with respect, but never fawned over her or tried to impress her with flattery. Angel appreciated his authenticity, something she had rarely encountered in her social circle. For the first time in her life, she felt a genuine connection with someone, one that wasn't based on superficial attraction or materialistic interests. Meanwhile, Jerry couldn't deny that he had always admired Angel's beauty, but he had never imagined that there could be anything more between them. After all, they came from completely different worlds. Yet, as they spent more time together, he found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't anticipated. She was no longer the spoiled rich girl he had met on his first day. Angel was changing, and with each passing day, their bond deepened. One evening, after yet another successful study session, Angel found herself unable to hold back her feelings any longer. She had been wrestling with them for weeks, unsure of how to approach the situation. But that night, as they sat in the quiet of the Peterson mansion's living room, she decided to take a leap of faith. "Jerry," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I've been thinking a lot lately. You've done so much for me, more than you'll ever know. And I think I'm starting to have feelings for you." Her confession hung in the air, and for a moment, there was silence. Jerry looked at her, surprised but not entirely unprepared. He had felt the same for some time but had kept his emotions in check, never daring to believe that someone like Angel could see him as more than just her driver. "Angel," he finally said, his voice calm but filled with emotion, "I've felt the same way for a while. But I never thought someone like you would ever look at me that way." Angel smiled, her heart pounding. "You're not just a driver, Jerry. You're so much more. I see that now." As Angel and Jerry's relationship blossomed, they found themselves navigating uncharted territory. Their connection had started with something as simple as tutoring, but it had evolved into something deeper and more meaningful. When Angel's parents eventually learned about the growing bond between their daughter and Jerry, their initial reaction was one of surprise. They had never imagined that Angel would develop feelings for someone outside of her social circle. But as they watched their daughter transform, becoming more responsible, more grounded, they began to realize that Jerry had been a positive influence on her. Mr. and Mrs. Peterson were not the type to stand in the way of their daughter's happiness, and they trusted Angel's judgment. After seeing the positive changes in her life, they chose to support the relationship rather than oppose it. They also saw Jerry's potential and knew that with the right opportunities, he could achieve great things. With that in mind, they offered to help Jerry pursue further education and advance his career. Jerry, though initially hesitant to accept their assistance, eventually agreed. He recognized that this was a chance to not only better his own life but also to build a future with Angel by his side. With the financial backing of the Petersons, Jerry was able to enroll in advanced studies and pursue his career goals. He worked hard, determined to make the most of the opportunities now available to him. As he rose to success, his relationship with Angel only grew stronger. What had started as a job to make ends meet had turned into a love story that neither of them had anticipated. Jerry's journey from driver to accomplished professional was a testament to his perseverance and determination, but it was also a story of love that had inspired him to be the best version of himself. Angel, too, had changed in ways she never thought possible. She had found someone who didn't just love her for her wealth or status, but for who she truly was. Together, they faced the world with a newfound sense of purpose and unity. Their love was not just built on attraction but on mutual respect, understanding, and the shared vision of a future where they could grow and thrive together. Angel had found more than just a tutor in Jerry, she had found a partner for life.